Hey, so I usually make videos that are fun, simple personal rankings. However, since late 2019, I've really wanted to make this video, but I've continually pushed it off. The topic makes me uncomfortable, but to be honest, that's irrelevant whether it makes me or anyone else uncomfortable. What matters is providing more information on the problem of the name Dreamcatcher and its iconography usage, which is the Dreamcatcher. So yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about Dreamcatcher. I want to preface all of this also by saying I do now stan Dreamcatcher, and if I were being really honest, I've been really into them since like 2018. Their concept is unique for a K-pop girl group, and their music is definitely my style. I think the members are immensely talented and release quality music. In fact, Scream, Deja Vu, and Odd Eye are some of my favorite title tracks in recent years. All this to say, this is not a hate video. I tried to make this video into a concise attempt at expressing my thoughts on the cultural appropriation and why there is an issue. Apologies if I leave something out or mispronounce anything, which I'm sure is bound to happen. I mispronounce things all the time. Anyway, this video also is not minimizing or ignoring that there are other cultural appropriation, outright racist things going on in the K-pop and non-K-pop entertainment worlds. I am not trying to do that or take away from any discussions not related to this, right? I do have some academic background on this matter, but the remainder is all from relatively recent research and what I've seen expressed on social media by several Native Americans from various groups that I follow and or know in real life. Okay, disclaimer number one, I am not, from a Native American group that uses Dreamcatchers historically or presently, such as, the Ojibwe. My thoughts on the matter are as someone not of the culture. It's not up to me to decide whether or not something is okay or acceptable, as it has no impact on me. However, there are many Indigenous individuals I follow who have for years, decades even, voiced the issue with Dreamcatchers being used by outsiders and, sometimes in an incorrect way, well, oftentimes in an incorrect way. I also want to note that just because the people I know disapprove does not mean all people in these cultures do. Let's also be clear that Native Americans are not one culture or group of people, there are hundreds, okay? So Dreamcatchers are not traditional items of Native Americans, but of specific groups. I hope this is an informative discussion that can shed light on the root issue and show that it's okay to call the company out concerning this issue. Which leads us into disclaimer number 2. When I say Dreamcatcher, as in the group, I am not questioning the members' complacency or role, as I am quite certain they are not responsible for their management's marketing and creative development of their group. I mean, if I'm wrong, definitely let me know, but I'm pretty sure they're not, so I'm not calling them out, I'm calling out their company, okay? Okay. So let's start by defining cultural appropriation. So what is it? Cultural appropriation is best surmised by Susan Scafidi of Fordham University. It is, quote, taking intellectual property, traditional knowledge, cultural expressions, or artifacts from someone else's culture without permission. It's most likely to be harmful when the source community is a minority group that has been oppressed or exploited in other ways, or when the object of appropriation is particularly sensitive. So it's basically borrowing from an often more vulnerable culture. I think that's a very simplistic way of looking at it, but I think for today that will work for our definition. However, on kind of the other side of this, I do want to bring up that an individual, he's an academic writer named Keenan Malik, also says this: maybe it's not theft or borrowing so much as a messy interaction. That's kind of how he views a lot of cultural appropriation issues, like modern issues. What I'm trying to briefly convey here between these two individuals is that it's an ongoing multiculturalism discussion that is not anywhere near being solved. Will it ever be solved? Who knows? I mean, I think especially if you're not literally taking into account voices from all of these groups that are impacted, then probably not. Is Dreamcatcher trying to use native imagery? Like, is that their goal, their intent? In my opinion, no. They clearly began using the Dreamcatcher as a token item in their videos, but to my knowledge, this kind of stopped after you and I. However, I have a point about that. So I'm going to show you a short compilation of all the times I spotted a Dreamcatcher in their music videos, not including their group logo, because we'd be here all day. But just so that you see, they do clearly use it. It's not like it is a one and done thing. I will say, I said, kind of stopped after you and I, because with their recent releases, maybe sometime around Scream, their overall iconography changed. I don't know if this was from some pushback that they received. I'm not really sure. So I don't really know if that will be changed permanently going forward, but if so, that is certainly a step in the right direction, and really what we can ask for, like what I want to ask for anyway. However, I will say for Endless Night, the Japanese release, we do see the return of their stylized Dreamcatcher, and we also see the iconography return for, Rose Blue, and for promotional items with the, Road to Dystopia album. So clearly this is still an issue. I had obviously thought it had gone away, but looking at it more, it didn't. Their company has actually been proactive in apologizing for any issue in the past, so I would have liked to have thought that them kind of getting away from the Dreamcatcher iconography was a nod to them understanding they should make some changes. However, clearly this isn't true, and unlike those other scenarios, they have not publicly addressed any potential changes anyway. So I think it was just happenstance. Generally, the only way to make any company aware of a problem is to discuss the issue as well as write to the company. I'm just saying that as some stands of K-pop groups seem to think that discussing it and writing about an issue is actually attacking the group, and I do not understand that. It doesn't make sense if you logically think about it for like 10 seconds. Literally doesn't make sense. So talking about an issue and calling someone out for the issue and, maybe writing to the company to get it resolved, those are not attacking a group, and I need everyone to understand that. Okay, thank you. Anyway, Dreamcatcher is going for a fantastical and mysticism aesthetic, which is coupled with their dark and horror-esque themes. However, for those outside of the know, their name and iconography suggest they are instead using Native American themes and styling. And I'm saying that because, to me and you, as K-pop viewers and listeners, we understand what Dreamcatcher is doing, okay? We get it. We understand. We know the lore, right? However, Susie Bob on Twitter, who, is a native from one of these groups, an indigenous person from one of these groups, doesn't know that. And neither does person B, okay? They don't know that. What they're seeing is something that they care about being taken and used inappropriately. That is what they see, okay? And you can't really argue that. That is an objective thing because they are not fans. They do not see what you see, okay? According to their CEO, Dreamcatcher is about doing what others didn't do. Outside of the musical direction, the primary point, concept, aesthetic focuses on nightmares. So I can definitely see where the jump was made to Dreamcatchers. Quick searches on dreams and nightmares and prevention and whatever else definitely leads down a rabbit hole into interpreting them as well as warding off nightmares, among other things, which is ultimately what they want in the concept, right? So I get how they got to the actual item and iconography, but they still shouldn't have. There should have been someone doing some checking, you know what I mean? And the fact that there wasn't speaks poorly of the company. It really does. It speaks poorly of their company and any other company who does things like this. It really does. Because you should be able to pay someone to find out what's what. I'm sorry. Where is the issue? I think the name choice and usage of the Dreamcatcher was purely because of its uniqueness and otherness. Outside of the occasional usage of the Dreamcatcher in the videos, the issue is in the name of the group as well as some styling choices. On the name specifically, it is silly to think the group should change their name. They are well established, and from a marketing standpoint, this would be near career suicide for the members. It probably would. None of them are well enough known, nor is the group beyond popular as a whole, so doing this would end the group point blank. There is no need to call for the group to change their name. It's unrealistic. But they can stop using the iconography 100%, and they really should do that. I think that that would help a lot. Now, the pictures I'm showing are from their Scream teasers. I only saw one of these brought up as an issue back when Scream was released, and it's because of the feather headdress headband here. It's an interesting style choice considering the other members do not have this going on. There are not native-inspired choices made elsewhere, period. I get that it's an accessory that makes her stand out, but that's really the only point I've seen made. But if you were on basically native Twitter when this was kind of happening, people were really upset about this. Just like an FYI, they really legitimately were. And I do remember seeing Dreamcatcher stands, defending the choice, as well as people doing the, pulling the old, well, I'm Native, so, and I say it's okay. And I'm not trying to debate whether someone random on Twitter is, some sort of Native American affiliated person or not. I'm not wanting to argue that by any means, but the fact of the matter is like there were hundreds, if not potentially thousands of people that I personally saw from the community that were like upset about this. And it wasn't just this like kind of like headband headdress thing. They were upset because the group is called Dreamcatcher. And what happened is they went back and looked at other Dreamcatcher things. And they got mad because they see the iconography being used. Obviously the name. They see, Dreamcatchers in the music videos, and they did not like this. They got quite upset, and I think they made a petition, if I remember correctly, to Happy Face Entertainment about being like, y'all need to get it together. This is not okay. So this was a real issue that went on, and it's a reoccurring issue in the community, not just with Dreamcatcher, but with other things going on. Anyway, so I just want to let you in the know there. This was a very big deal back before Scream came out. But I think really it's interesting because there's actually a term for this. So the term for this is exoticism, which is directly related, actually sprang from colonialism. This is about a historically representation issue that has to do with the difference between the home culture and the foreign culture and the quote otherness of it. That's literally what it is. So what it is, and that's what we can see with Dreamcatcher using the iconography for ooh, what's this? Oh, it's so mysterious and stuff like that, and the otherness and uniqueness of it. What it is it's reducing a foreign article of clothing or even an item, such as a Dreamcatcher, to an enigmatic piece simply because it isn't part of the home culture. Obviously, Dreamcatchers, to every archaeologist's knowledge ever, is not part of Korean culture. So obviously this makes people who, are Ojibwe or whatever else upset because they're like, this is not part of your culture. I don't think you should use it. And while yes, Koreans have never actively, oppressed these native groups. So there is bad blood, so to speak here. And it has nothing to do with the fact that these people hate Koreans. They don't. They hate the fact that everyone seems to benefit from using their items and their, headdresses, their this, their that. They see them benefiting, whereas they suffered for it, in some cases, lost their lives for it. So, it's a big issue. And that is why people get upset about Dreamcatcher. I'm just letting you know, that's the root cause. We're ending the video. Goodbye. Further, from the late 1900s and onward to today, we've seen the commercialization of Native Americans and their cultures. And this is the issue, which is basically what I just went on a tangent talking about, but this is the issue. The commercialization of Native Americans and their cultures. Using things when they had to suffer, but it's okay for you to do it, and it's trendy, And I want to say this, commercialization of, cultures is usually done in a seemingly harmless and even fun way. And, for Native American cultures, specifically Plains Indians, at times, they've been used in a pro-environment and pro-sustainability way by people who honestly mean well. But the problem, it's just very messy, and I just feel like we don't even have time to get into it here, but it's very messy. So what I'm saying is sometimes there are good intentions, or even not even good intentions, but harmless intentions to these things. And I think that's what happened with Dreamcatcher specifically. But I will say, just kind of touching on a couple of other issues, just recently, Land O'Lakes removed the Native American woman from their packaging, and predominantly white Americans, they lost it. They were like, we're gonna boycott the brand because they're being PC. And it was like, oh my goodness. But it's really been a part of a decades-long battle by several Native groups to have her removed. This was a hard-fought battle. And I think that's not what everyone knows and understands, because like I said, if you're not part of the culture or part of the broader group, it doesn't impact you, does it? It doesn't. So why would you know, I guess? I think today that's not an excuse, but whatever. What I'm saying is that this is not an isolated issue, and many corporations and cultures have commodified and made money off Native Americans, among other groups of people, of course. It makes sense that any group, especially if they see that the entity in question is inappropriate or is seen as beautiful and fun on an outsider, but is brutish and uncivilized on them, someone who is part of this culture 100%. You know, what comes to mind for me is like the full-on headdresses that you see at Coachella. They're super trendy for people. You know, everyone's like, oh, I made this headdress, or oh, and it's like, oh my gosh, like get it together. Like historically, having a headdress was a cause for racial violence. And so it's just like wild that you see people going to music events now wearing them. And it's just like, oh my God, like what? Okay, so let's just conclude here. You know, what's next? Well, for me, I suppose, I mean, very obviously, I will finally admit that I do stand Dreamcatcher. I mean, I've avoided it for a while. I mean, some of you know. All I can do is continue to, you know, elevate Ojibwe and other minority voices in the hopes that those being called out will listen and take action. I think that's all really any of us who are aware of these problems can do. And maybe there is some, you know, activism other than just supporting and uplifting voices that can be done, but, you know, not that I know of currently for this specific issue anyway. Maybe this hasn't changed your views, or maybe this has made you give pause to more issues in our world and you'd like to learn more, or just going to make an effort to be more observant about these things / you know, kind of less quick to judge about it. Because I know sometimes when someone, for instance, attacks, you know, one of your favorite artists, it's hard not to take it personally on their behalf, but, you know, kind of step back from situations and really put yourself in the other person's shoe and see like what's going on. There's probably a reason for it. There might be a reason for it. There might be like some issue you didn't even understand, but it's like a very real battle. If you like Dreamcatcher, that's great. I do too, but please do not undermine people, especially these Native Americans from these specific groups used in their iconography and name, who are trying to draw attention to the issue as a whole. Like, don't go after them. Like, what are you doing? Like, don't disrespect them. Don't act like they're an idiot. Don't act like they're overreacting. Like, you know, kind of hate to say it, but if you can't say anything nice or supportive, don't say anything at all. You know what I mean? There is a big difference between trying to raise awareness, drive change, and hate and vilification. Big difference. Let's say it again. There is a big difference between trying to raise awareness and drive change versus hate and vilification. Big difference between those things. They're not the same. Nope. The latter is unacceptable and should be ignored, or if a truly extreme case, reported through proper legal channels. Period. Direct quotes and citations used are in the description box below. Thanks for listening. That's really all I have here. I could go longer, but I think realistically, I've gone on many tangents. So we're just going to end it here with the knowledge that Dreamcatcher's company needs to stop using the iconography of a Dreamcatcher, as well as having the actual physical item in music videos. They need to stop. Thank you.